She was just a girl walking to her part-time job, with nothing in her pockets but a half-eaten bagel and a heart full of kindness. He looked like any other stray on the streets of New York, dirty, thin, forgotten. But what she didn't know was that this wasn't just any dog. This dog belonged to a billionaire, and feeding him that one morning, it would change her entire life. From a cramped studio apartment to a luxurious estate, from struggling student to a life she never imagined. This is the true story of what happens when you lead with love. New York City didn't slow down for anyone, especially not on a Tuesday morning. The honking was relentless, the sidewalks were packed, and Maya Carter was running late again. With one hand clutching a half-warm coffee and the other juggling her phone, tote bag, and a half-eaten cinnamon raisin bagel, she weaved through the morning crowd like a pro. She wasn't anyone special in this city of 8 million, just a brokelet major trying to survive midterms, rent hikes, and subway delays. Her life was predictable. Tight budget, tight schedule, tighter dreams, and today felt no different. Until it did. As she passed a narrow alley between a florist and a bakery on Fifth Avenue, one she'd passed 1,000 times without even glancing, something made her stop. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the soft whimper. Maybe it was fate. She turned her head. There, curled up against a trash bin, was a golden retriever. His fur was tangled with bits of newspaper and grime, and he looked like he hadn't eaten in days. But it was his eyes that caught her. Deep, soulful, and somehow dignified. Like he didn't belong there. "Hey, boy," she whispered, stepping cautiously toward him. The dog lifted his head, alert but not afraid. His tail gave a weak thump against the pavement. Maya crouched, bagel in hand. "You hungry?" He didn't bark, didn't growl, just stared at her with those old, quiet eyes. She tore the bagel in half and held it out. The dog sniffed, then took it gently, like he'd been raised to be polite, like he wasn't used to begging. "You're a classy little guy, huh?" she smiled. "What's your story?" There was no collar, no name tag, just dirt, matted fur, and an air of sadness that tugged at something deep inside her. She glanced at her phone. She was already late. Screw it. "I'm not leaving you here," she muttered, making a quick decision she'd either regret or remember forever. She removed her scarf and gently looped it around his neck like a leash. "Come on, let's get you warm." And just like that, the stray followed. Her apartment was tiny. A fifth-floor walk-up in a building that smelled permanently of garlic and burnt toast. But Leo didn't seem to mind. She gave him a warm bath in the tub, which he tolerated with surprising grace, fed him boiled chicken and rice, which he inhaled, and laid a folded blanket beside her bed. "Leo," she said out loud that night, watching him sleep, "you look like a Leo." And so he was. In the weeks that followed, Leo became her silent shadow. He followed her from her room to the kitchen, from her desk to the couch. He never barked, rarely whined, and understood commands she'd never taught him. Sit, stay, even heel. He had good manners, too good for a stray. He didn't like tap water, refused store-brand dog food, flinched at sirens but perked up at the sound of classical piano. Maya joked that he had expensive taste and probably used to live in a penthouse. She never imagined how right she was. One Sunday afternoon, Maya took Leo for a walk through Central Park. The fall colors were just starting to bloom, golds and oranges blending into the skyline, and Leo seemed unusually restless, like he was searching for something. That's when it happened. A man in his early 40s, sharply dressed in a tailored navy coat, stopped mid-stride and stared. "Leo," he said, his voice cracking. Maya looked up, confused. The man's eyes were wide, locked on the golden retriever. Leo froze. Then, in a blur, he lunged forward. Not in fear, not in aggression, in recognition. His tail wagged wildly, his entire body trembling with excitement as he barked, loudly, joyfully, for the first time since Maya had met him. The man dropped to his knees. "Oh my God," he breathed, hugging the dog tightly. "You're alive. You're really alive." Maya was speechless. Leo, was licking the man's face like a child reunited with his parent after years. She stepped forward cautiously. "Excuse me, you know him?" The man looked up, eyes glassy with emotion. "Know him? He's mine. I'm Jonathan Blake." The name didn't click immediately. Then it did. Jonathan Blake. As in Blake Industries. As in the billionaire tech mogul behind half the apps on her phone. She blinked. "Wait, this dog is yours?" He nodded, still holding Leo close. "He's been missing for 3 months. We thought someone took him, or worse. I never stopped searching." The world suddenly tilted. Maya felt like she was standing in the middle of a movie, and she wasn't sure what kind it was yet. Jonathan stood, brushing off his coat. "Where did you find him?" "In an alley," she said softly. "Near Fifth Avenue. He looked like a stray." Jonathan looked at her then, really looked at her. "And you took him in?" She nodded. He stared at her for a long moment, something unreadable behind his eyes. "Thank you," he said finally. "You have no idea what that means to me." Back in her apartment that night, Leo lay curled by her feet, his eyes still the same, but now they held a secret she hadn't known about before, a secret worth more than her entire life savings. Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Who really was this dog? And what did it mean? That she had unknowingly cared for someone else's $1 million companion. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the message. "Miss Carter, Mr. Blake would like to express his personal gratitude. A car will be sent for you at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Please be ready." Office of Jonathan Blake. She sat up, heart racing. Leo looked up at her, tail thumping gently. "What just happened?" she whispered. The only sound was the soft hum of the city outside, and the quiet sense that nothing would ever be the same again. She thought she was just returning a lost dog. But what she didn't know was that the dog wasn't the only one who'd been missing something. The next morning at exactly 10 a.m., a sleek black SUV with tinted windows pulled up in front of Maya's walk-up. She had barely slept. Leo had curled against her all night, just like he always did. But this time, something felt different. She couldn't stop wondering if it was the last night she'd ever have him by her side. Now, standing outside her apartment with a tote bag slung over one shoulder and her coat buttoned up tight, she hesitated for a beat. The driver stepped out and gave her a polite nod. "Miss Carter?" "That's me," she said, unsure of how she was supposed to act. Cool? Grateful? Freaking out inside? He opened the door for her. "Mr. Blake is expecting you." Leo jumped in first, like he'd done this before. She followed, heart pounding. The car ride felt like a dream, like something from a movie she didn't remember auditioning for. The farther they drove, the more the city faded. Skyscrapers turned to brownstones, brownstones to gated properties, until finally they turned down a long private road flanked with towering trees. Golden leaves rained down like confetti. At the end of the drive stood a mansion. Not just a big house, a full-blown estate. Modern, glassy, but warm somehow. Like the kind of place you'd see in an architecture magazine or a James Bond film. She barely had time to process before the car stopped. "Here we are," the driver said. He opened the door again, and Leo jumped out like he knew exactly where he was. He didn't hesitate, just trotted toward the house, tail wagging. Maya stepped out slowly, eyes wide. This was his home? Before she could make sense of it, the front door opened. Jonathan Blake stepped out, dressed casually in a soft sweater and jeans, a stark contrast to the power-suited CEO she'd seen in Forbes articles. He smiled. "Maya, thank you for coming." She nodded, trying not to look like a tourist. "Of course." Jonathan glanced down at Leo, who was already at his feet, tail thumping. He bent to stroke the dog's head. "He's been restless since we brought him back yesterday. Kept looking at the door. I think he was waiting for you." Maya's heart squeezed. Inside, the house was somehow both massive and peaceful. Sunlight poured through glass walls. The air smelled faintly of cedar and something citrusy. The living room alone was bigger than her entire apartment. And yet, it wasn't cold or showy. It felt like a home, personal, lived in. They sat down near a fireplace that flickered quietly, Leo resting between them like a golden bridge. Jonathan looked at her with quiet gratitude. "I know this is probably surreal." "Ah, that's one word for it," she said with a nervous laugh. He smiled. "Leo went missing during a storm 3 months ago, slipped out during a blackout. We searched everywhere. Security footage, posters, tracking. Nothing. I found him in an alley," she said. "He looked so out of place." "He was," Jonathan said softly. "Leo isn't just a dog. He's my connection to someone important." Maya tilted her head. "Someone?" "My wife," he said after a pause. "She passed away 2 years ago. Leo was hers, her shadow. After she died, he became mine." "Oh," Maya said quietly, heart sinking. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Jonathan nodded. "Thank you, and thank you for taking care of him when I couldn't." Maya hesitated. "I didn't do anything special. Just fed him, gave him a warm place to sleep." "Most people would have walked past him," Jonathan said, "but you didn't." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that wasn't awkward, just full. Leo stretched and laid his head on Maya's foot. She smiled down at him. "He's picky," she said. "Didn't like tap water. Turned his nose up at store-brand kibble." Jonathan chuckled. "Sounds like him. My wife used to say he had more expensive taste than we did." Maya laughed, then looked up. "Can I ask something?" "Of course. Why me?" "Why invite me here?" Jonathan leaned back, eyes soft. "Because Leo hasn't looked this content since she died. And I think it has everything to do with you." Later, as Maya wandered the grounds, while Leo bounded freely through the leaves, she found herself drawn to a quiet corner of the estate, a garden, tucked away behind a line of tall hedges. There, beneath a small white bench, was a plaque. "In love and memory of Eleanor Blake. She taught us all how to love freely and to always choose kindness." It all clicked. Leo wasn't just a pet. He was a legacy, a living, breathing piece of someone who had once filled this house with laughter and warmth. And Maya had stepped into that warmth without knowing it. As the sun dipped below the trees and bathed the sky in oranges and golds, Jonathan met her near the car. "I don't want to make things awkward," he said, "but I'd like to offer something." Maya raised an eyebrow. "A job," he continued. "Living, taking care of Leo, helping me keep him happy. And maybe just having someone around who reminds him of her." She blinked. "You want me to move in? You'd have your own space, a stipend, free time for school or work, full flexibility." He paused. "No strings, just gratitude. And maybe a little selfishness. Leo hasn't stopped smiling since you got here." Maya looked at the dog, who was chasing falling leaves like a puppy. Her heart ached. She wanted to say no, to be practical, cautious, logical. But then she looked at Leo. And she realized something. She wasn't rescuing him anymore. He was rescuing her. She thought she was here to return a dog. But maybe, just maybe, she was meant to find a new home too. But the billionaire's world wasn't as simple as it seemed. And Maya was about to learn that kindness comes with unexpected consequences. The next time Maya stepped into the mansion, she wasn't a guest. She was staff, or something like it. The SUV pulled up in the early morning light. Leo leapt out first, confident and eager, tail swinging like he owned the place again. And maybe he did. Jonathan had insisted on sending movers to pack her few belongings, which honestly felt ridiculous. She owned 2 suitcases, a thrifted desk, and 3 secondhand bookshelves. But everything was handled by professionals like she was a VIP. Now she stood just beyond the grand front doors, wearing her most polished outfit, jeans without holes and a sweater without coffee stains, clutching a canvas tote with her notebooks, and wondering what on earth she'd just signed up for. Jonathan greeted her at the door, dressed again in casual layers, coffee in hand. He didn't look like a billionaire today. He looked like someone's older brother or your favorite college professor. Except he lived in a house with 7 fireplaces. "Welcome home," he said warmly. Those 2 words hit different. Maya gave a small, nervous smile. "Still kind of feels like I walked into an episode of Succession," he laughed. "I promise. No power plays, no media empires. Just me, Leo, and whatever this turns into." She glanced around. "So, what exactly do you need me to do?" Jonathan sipped his coffee and nodded toward the east hallway. "Follow me." The house unfolded like a dream as they walked. Every turn revealed a new wing or detail. Sunken sitting rooms, a library with sliding ladders, an indoor greenhouse with orchids, and a room entirely dedicated to music, complete with a grand piano and shelves of vintage vinyl. He finally stopped in front of a wide double door. "Here's yours," he said, opening it with a soft push. Maya stepped inside. It wasn't a guest room. It wasn't a suite. It was an apartment. There was a bedroom with warm golden light pouring in from a bay window, a small reading nook with a built-in bookshelf, a private bathroom that looked like it belonged in a luxury spa, and a tiny kitchen, fully stocked and gleaming. "This is for me?" she asked, stunned. "You're not just staff, Maya," he said. "You're family now. To Leo, at least. And that matters more to me than a resume." She looked at him, then really looked, and saw it. The weariness, the loneliness hidden beneath the perfect grooming and wealth. He didn't just miss his dog. He missed people. The kind who didn't ask for anything, the kind who just showed up. She nodded. "Okay, I'll try not to leave dishes in the sink." He smiled. "Leo will appreciate that." The day settled into a rhythm. Gentle, uncomplicated. Maya woke early, took Leo for walks through the estate gardens, and read while he napped in her lap. She helped with small things: vet appointments, grooming days, organizing Leo's old toys, and occasionally helped Jonathan sort through stacks of Eleanor's old journals or photographs, which he was trying to archive. They never spoke much about his wife, but Maya saw her everywhere: in the garden roses, in the black and white photos lining the hallway, in the piano music that sometimes drifted through the house when Jonathan thought no one was listening. And yet, Maya wasn't in mourning here. Somehow, the space between grief and healing felt safe, gentle, alive. One evening, just as the sky turned lavender and the garden lights flicked on, Maya wandered outside with Leo at her side. He darted into the hedges like he was chasing something, and she followed, laughing, until she found herself somewhere new. It was a small building tucked near the edge of the property. Not as grand as the mansion, but clean and intentional. The door was unlocked. Inside was a private art studio. Sunlight slanted through high windows, catching particles of dust that danced like glitter. The walls were lined with canvases, half-finished paintings, sketches of dogs, gardens, people she didn't recognize. One stood out, a woman in a white dress, laughing mid-spin. Leo was beside her. Maya stared at it, breath caught in her throat. It was Eleanor. It had to be. Eleanor painted here, a voice said behind her. Maya turned to see Jonathan standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets. She painted almost every day. Said it kept her grounded. She was talented, Maya said softly. He stepped beside her. She never showed her work. Said it wasn't about that. They stood in silence for a moment. Maya could smell paint and turpentine, could almost feel the echo of someone else's joy. She would have liked you, he said quietly. Maya didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything at all. That night, over a quiet dinner on the terrace, Maya asked something she'd been holding in. Why me? She said again. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, looking out at the trees. Do you want the real answer? I do. Because you didn't know who Leo was, or who I was. But because you didn't know who Leo was, or who I was. You just helped. And when someone helps you without wanting anything in return, you don't forget that. She looked at him. He looked at her. Something shifted in the air between them, just a flicker, a new current. Not romance, not yet. But maybe something future-shaped. Later, as she lay in bed, Leo snoring softly on the rug, Maya stared at the ceiling. Her world was completely different now. And yet, she didn't feel like a guest or a tenant. She felt like she belonged, like this life might be growing around her, one quiet leaf at a time. But she also knew one thing for sure. Nothing this beautiful stays uncomplicated for long. She was living in someone else's story now. But what happens when she discovers that story isn't finished yet? And that not everyone wants her here? It started with the photo. Maya had been looking for an extra blanket in one of the hallway linen closets when she saw it. A picture tucked behind stacks of folded sheets, half hidden, half forgotten. She pulled it out. It was a glossy black and white photograph, old but pristine. Jonathan stood beside a woman, not Eleanor, not his wife. This woman was striking, poised, hands clasped in front of her, like she'd been caught in the middle of giving orders. She had sharp cheekbones, tightly pulled back hair, and a slight tilt to her head that practically shouted, "I'm in charge!" Behind them, the same mansion loomed. There was no label, no date, just that image, frozen in time. And for some reason, it sent a chill up Maya's spine. She put it back where she found it, but her thoughts didn't let it go. The house, once bright and full of peace, had started to change, not in obvious ways, but in subtle, unsettling ones. Footsteps she couldn't place. Doors left ajar when she'd shut them. Lights flicking on in rooms she hadn't entered. And then there was Leo. He'd begun growling at certain spots in the house. Not barking, just a low, cautious growl. Once, he even refused to go down the back hallway leading to the west wing. Maya mentioned it to Jonathan over tea one afternoon, but he just shook his head. The west wing hasn't been used in over a year, he said. You're probably just hearing the wind. The place is old. But the look in his eyes didn't match his words. There was something hidden there. A flicker of hesitation. The kind people wear when they're trying to keep the past locked behind a door that's slowly creaking open again. The next strange thing happened during dinner. They'd been sitting on the terrace again, Maya, Jonathan, and Leo curled at their feet, when a woman appeared at the edge of the garden. She didn't announce herself. She didn't wave. She just stood there, watching. Maya noticed her first. Jonathan? He turned. His posture shifted immediately, straightened, alert. His voice dropped. Excuse me for a moment. He walked toward the woman, calm but tight. Maya stayed seated. She couldn't hear what they said, but she watched. The woman spoke with sharp hand movements. Jonathan barely responded. His expression was blank, guarded. Then he nodded. Once. And she turned and walked away, disappearing back down the gravel path into the shadows. When Jonathan returned, Maya tried to act casual. Friend of yours? He hesitated. An old business partner. His tone made it clear. Don't ask more. So she didn't. But her curiosity twisted quietly in her gut. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy, stale. She got up, made tea, and wandered toward the old library. It was the one place in the house that made her feel like she was in a storybook, with its velvet armchairs and dusty gold-rimmed books. But as she turned the corner, she heard whispering. Software murmured. Coming from the far end of the hallway, she froze. It wasn't Jonathan's voice. It wasn't anyone she knew. She leaned closer. Don't let her get too comfortable. Then a shushing sound. Then silence. Maya stepped forward, pulse racing. But the hallway was empty. The doors? Closed. The whisper? Gone. She returned to her room, locking the door behind her. Leo jumped onto her bed, whining softly. He curled close, one paw protectively over her ankle. Maya lay awake for hours, her heart refusing to settle. The next morning, something changed. Jonathan avoided eye contact at breakfast. Leo refused to eat. The housekeeper, an older woman named Greta, who'd always been warm and chatty, was suddenly distant, eyes darting toward the hallway behind Maya. And then came the message, slipped under her door. No envelope, no name, just a note, scribbled in sharp handwriting. You don't belong here. Leave while you can. The house was beautiful, but not everyone wanted her inside it. Now Maya must ask herself, is Leo the only one she's been protecting, or is someone about to protect her? Maya stared at the note in her hand. You don't belong here. Leave while you can. The words were uneven, almost rushed, but deliberate. The kind of handwriting you don't forget. She sat on the edge of her bed, holding the slip of paper like it might burn her. Leo watched her from the rug, head tilted, ears perked. He sensed it, the tension, the shift in the air. Someone didn't want her here. And worse, they were close enough to slip a note under her door. In this house, in this safe place. She didn't go to Jonathan right away. Maybe she should have. But something told her not to. Not yet. Not until she knew more. So instead, she slipped the note into her coat pocket, put Leo on his leash, and took him for a walk. Not through the gardens this time, but toward the estate's older paths, the ones lined with stone statues and broken benches, places that had history in the cracks. And she watched. She watched the way staff looked at her. The gardener, who used to smile, now avoided her. Greta, the housekeeper, kept her eyes down. Even the driver, Thomas, had gone quiet. No more morning greetings. No more friendly updates. It was like the whole house had turned cold, like it was holding its breath. Later that afternoon, Maya wandered back into the library, looking for anything, something, that could make sense of what she was feeling. That's when she found the drawer. It was in the corner of the old desk, locked. But the key, tucked under the runner of the reading table, fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her. Inside, a stack of letters, yellowed, fragile, bound by an old velvet ribbon. They weren't addressed to Jonathan. They were to someone named Margot. Maya sat down and began reading. Dear Margot, I saw her again in the garden today. She walks like Eleanor, but she's not Eleanor. Not really. You were right. I can't trust her. There's something off in her smile. She's trying to claim what isn't hers. And I won't let her. Maya froze. What? She read more. Letter after letter, all from the same mysterious author, and all seemingly referring to someone else. Someone who had once been in this house. Someone who had reminded them of Eleanor, but wasn't. And now, Maya's name wasn't there, but the implication was clear. This had happened before. Someone else had come into this house and been warned off by someone who believed they were protecting the memory of Eleanor, or protecting something else. When Maya brought the letters to Jonathan, he looked pale. I didn't write these, he said quickly. They're from my sister. Maya blinked. You have a sister? Had, he said. Margot. He ran a hand through his hair. She lived here for a while after Eleanor passed. Said she wanted to help, but things got strained. She thought the house should stay exactly as Eleanor left it. She didn't want anything to change. Maya looked at him. And now someone's leaving me warnings. He nodded. Margot moved out last year. I haven't seen her since. Then who's writing the notes? Jonathan was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, I think she came back. That night, Maya didn't sleep. She walked the hallways, barefoot and quiet, Leo padding beside her. She paused near the west wing, the one Leo always avoided. Then she heard it again, whispering. Closer this time. Maya stepped forward slowly toward the end of the corridor. There was a room there, door half open. She hadn't been inside before. Leo growled softly. She pushed the door open with one hand. Inside, the room was dimly lit by a tall window. Dust covered the shelves. A velvet chair sat in the corner, and beside it, a woman, sitting, still, staring out the window. Maya froze. The woman turned slowly. Sharp cheekbones, tight bun, cold, assessing eyes. The woman from the photograph. Margot? Maya whispered. The woman stood. So you're the one he brought in? Her voice was quiet, controlled. You shouldn't be here. I live here, Maya said. You live in her house, Margot snapped. You sleep in her bed. You touch her dog. You walk through her gardens like you belong. Maya's pulse spiked. Jonathan said you left. I came back, Margot said, because I knew it would happen again. He always needs a replacement. First a nurse, then a friend, now you. I'm not replacing anyone, Maya said. I'm just helping. Margot stepped closer. Help by leaving, she said coldly. Before you disappear too. The past wasn't buried. It was waiting. And now Maya knows she's not the first. But will she be the last? Maya didn't sleep. Not after seeing Margot. Not after hearing her words. Before you disappear too. She could still feel the woman's eyes on her, even hours later. Like her presence left a cold fingerprint on the room and on Maya's spine. But more than fear, Maya felt something else now. Resolve. She wasn't going to run. She wasn't here by accident. Something bigger was unfolding. And it wasn't just about a dog, or a billionaire, or a grieving sister. It was about why. Margot was really here, and what she was trying to protect. Jonathan didn't mention Margot the next morning. He didn't ask where Maya had been or why she looked like she hadn't blinked all night. He was quieter than usual, distracted, as if he knew something had shifted but didn't have the words for it yet. Maya didn't press him. Instead, she watched him closely as he talked about remodeling the garden trail, fixing the greenhouse windows, normal things, comforting distractions. And then, in between sips of coffee, he mentioned a room. I used to keep Eleanor's journals in a cabinet upstairs, he said, but I locked the room after Margot left. I haven't been back in since. A locked room. Maya felt it like a knock under her ribs. She leaned in casually. Where is it? North wing. Third floor. behind the old nursery. You can't miss the door. Brass handle, looks ancient. He stood. I should probably go check it today, actually. Maya's heart jumped. She forced a smile. Want help? The north wing was colder than the rest of the house. Literally. Maya pulled her sweater tighter around her as they walked, Leo sniffing ahead. The wallpaper had begun to peel. The floorboards creaked with every step. It felt like stepping into a memory that no one wanted to remember. Finally, they reached the door. It was exactly as Jonathan said. Solid wood, a brass handle dulled with time, and a keyhole that looked straight out of a Victorian novel. Jonathan pulled a ring of keys from his pocket. Tried one. Then another, and another. None fit. He frowned. That's odd. Do you think Margot? Maya started. Jonathan's face darkened. She wouldn't. But Maya wasn't so sure. That afternoon, while Jonathan took a call and Leo napped under the kitchen table, Maya returned to the door. She wasn't proud of what she was about to do, but curiosity had claws now. She'd found an old toolkit in the maintenance room earlier. Inside it, a thin tension wrench and a rake-style lockpick. She'd watched enough YouTube videos over the years, and she used to help her uncle at his repair shop back in college. Locks weren't completely foreign to her. She knelt, tools in hand, breath held tight. Click. Click. Silence. Then, a snap. The lock gave. The door creaked open slowly. The air smelled like lavender and thyme. The room was untouched. Dust floated in sunbeams. A large writing desk stood against the far wall, and above it, a portrait of Eleanor. Not smiling, not posed, just real. Her eyes were calm, almost knowing. Maya stepped inside. There were books everywhere. Journals stacked in neat towers, sketches pinned to a corkboard. And in the center of the desk, wrapped in ribbon, was a leather-bound journal with gold ink across the front. To the one who finds this. Maya froze. It was Eleanor's handwriting. She untied the ribbon, hands trembling. The journal wasn't long, but it was devastating. If someone is reading this, it means I'm gone. And I'm so sorry you had to find me this way. But you deserve to know the truth. I loved Jonathan. I loved Leo, but not everything in this house was kind to me. Margot never trusted me. She believed I was only after the money. She made my life small in ways no one saw. If you are here, then you understand what it feels like to be watched, to be whispered about, to be warned. You are not imagining it. You're not wrong. And you are not the first. Maya's breath caught. There was more. She said I was replacing someone, that I didn't belong. She even locked this room after Jonathan proposed. She called it the place where the house died. But I'm leaving this behind for someone like me. Someone who didn't come for fortune or fame. Someone who just cared. So if you found this, please take care of Leo. And take care of yourself. You are not alone. Maya closed the book with shaking hands. Her heart ached. Not just with fear, but with connection. Eleanor had known what it felt like to be the outsider, the intruder, the replacement. And now, Maya was walking the same line. But maybe this time she could change the ending. She heard the sound behind her too late. The door. Click. Lock. Maya turned. She wasn't alone. Margot stood in the hallway, keys dangling from her fingers. Her expression was unreadable. I warned you, she said softly. The key turned. The door locked. Maya was trapped. She stared at Margot through the narrow window pane set into the wood. Her breath fogged the glass. Leo barked from the other side, sharp and insistent. But Margot didn't flinch. She just stood there, head tilted, like a curator studying something fragile, a painting maybe, or a threat. I told you not to dig, she said. Her voice was calm, far too calm for someone who had just locked another woman in a forgotten room. Maya's voice was sharp. You can't keep me in here. Margot shrugged. You'll be fine. It's not like I'm throwing you into a dungeon. But that's exactly what you're doing. Margot's fingers brushed along the frame of the door. This room wasn't meant for anyone else. Not after her. Eleanor? Maya asked. For the first time, Margot's eyes softened. Yes, Eleanor. Maya stepped away from the door and sat slowly at the desk. She needed time to think, and the journal was still open. The air was thick with dust and tension, but the sunlight filtering through the old curtains felt protective somehow, like Eleanor was still watching, still guiding. Maya flipped through more pages of the journal, scanning for something, anything, that would help her make sense of what was happening. Then she found it, a sealed envelope tucked between the pages. On the front, in the same elegant cursive, Jonathan. Only open if you must. Maya hesitated. This wasn't hers to open. But what if this was the reason Margot had tried to erase this room? What if it held the truth that could explain everything? She slid a finger under the seal and gently pulled it open. Inside was a letter, only a page long, written with trembling care. My dearest Jonathan, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And I need you to know you were the best thing that ever happened to me, even when things got hard, even when I felt invisible in this house. Margot doesn't mean to hurt you. She just never stopped grieving. Not for me, but for the life she thought you owed her. You don't have to carry her sorrow anymore. You don't have to let it shape the future. Let her go, Jonathan. And if there's someone new in your life, someone who's kind and brave and maybe a little lost, let her in. Don't shut down the part of you that still loves. She'll need your trust, and she'll give you back your peace. Please don't let my memory become a chain around your life. Let it be a light. I will always love you, Eleanor. Maya pressed the letter to her chest. Her throat burned. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was a permission slip for the future. It was a map for Jonathan, and maybe for her. A way forward. And yet, Margot had tried to erase it. Why? The door unlocked again 2 hours later. Margot stepped in, no longer guarded, but tired, like the weight of her own secrets was finally pressing too hard to carry. She looked at the journal on the desk, then at Maya. You found the letter. Maya nodded. She wanted him to move on, Maya said softly. Why couldn't you let him? Margot didn't answer for a long time. When she did, her voice was brittle. Because I couldn't. She sat down slowly in the chair across from Maya, her fingers tracing the edge of the desk, like she was remembering something. You don't understand what it was like, she said. After the accident, Jonathan disappeared into himself. I was the only one trying to hold things together. This house, the staff, Leo, everything. You were grieving too, Maya said. Margot looked up sharply. I still am. But you're turning grief into punishment, Maya said quietly. For everyone, including yourself. Silence stretched between them. Leo pawed gently at Margot's knee. And for a moment, just one, her hard exterior cracked. Later that night, Maya and Jonathan sat on the terrace again. The stars were out, dusting the sky with silver. The wind was soft. Leo lay between them, head resting against Maya's foot. She handed Jonathan the letter. He didn't speak as he read it. His hand trembled once, but he didn't wipe his tears away. When he finally looked up, his voice was hoarse. She knew me better than anyone. Maya nodded. She also knew you were capable of loving again. Jonathan looked at her. Not just with gratitude, but with recognition, like he saw something in her he hadn't dared believe in for a long time. Hope. Inside, Margot had returned to her room. She didn't speak to anyone that evening, but before she closed her door, she'd left something on Maya's nightstand, a small frame. Inside it, a photo, Eleanor, smiling, and Margot beside her, arms linked. They looked happy. On the back of the frame was a handwritten note. She saw the light in you too. I just couldn't see it yet. Truth brings peace, but it also changes everything. As old wounds heal and new ones begin to close, Maya is left with a choice: stay and become something more, or walk away forever. The days after Jonathan read Eleanor's letter passed slowly, but in the best possible way. There was a quiet healing between them. The kind of healing that doesn't shout, but whispers. Maya could see it in Jonathan's eyes when he looked at her. There was still pain there, lingering, but beneath it, something else. Something she hadn't noticed before. Hope, and not the fragile kind that could break at any moment. The kind that stayed even when the storm raged. But despite the softness between them, Maya knew the truth. Her place here, in this grand house with the dark secrets, was always fragile, and Margot's warning still lingered in her mind. You'll disappear too. It wasn't just a threat, it was a possibility, a haunting. That afternoon, Maya found herself standing in front of the nursery, the same place that had once been locked away. It was now unlocked, its door creaking open on its own, like it had been waiting for her. Leo barked, but he didn't run inside. Maya felt it. Something was different here now. The nursery was nothing like she imagined. It wasn't a child's room. Not at all. Instead, it was filled with more of Eleanor's things. A spinning wheel tucked into the corner, bookshelves stacked with journals and strange artifacts. A child's crib, but it was made of dark wood and intricately carved. It looked as though it had belonged to someone else entirely. Not a nursery for a child, but for a memory. A memory of someone lost. Maya stepped forward. Her fingers brushed across the books on the shelves. Some leather-bound, some old, some brand new. The words were not in English, and many were in French. At the very back of the room, something caught her eye. A small portrait, half hidden behind a curtain of old lace. She moved closer. The painting was of a young woman. Not Eleanor, but someone else. Someone whose eyes were strikingly similar to Jonathan's. It was a woman with dark curls and soft features, her gaze thoughtful, serious. She looked like she was waiting for something. Or maybe someone. Maya stepped back, a chill creeping up her spine. Her eyes lingered on the words written at the bottom of the painting. To my forever. She didn't have time to think about the portrait because Leo was already pacing restlessly, sniffing at something near the crib. She knelt down beside him. The floorboards creaked under her knees. And as she reached forward to pet Leo, she noticed something strange. The wood beneath her fingertips moved. She pushed. The floorboard popped open. Underneath was a hidden compartment. Inside was a box. It was old, sealed with wax. There was no name, no clue. But the wax seal looked the same as the one from Eleanor's journal. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She pulled the box out, carefully. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal, opened the box, and revealed a bundle of papers inside. Yellowed, brittle with age. The first page was a letter. My dearest Jonathan, if you are reading this, it is because I have not been able to tell you the truth in person. But you must know. This house, our family, the money, it was never what I wanted. Not really. I loved you. But I also loved the life we could have had outside of this place. Outside of Margot's shadow. Outside the prison we made for ourselves. I wanted to be free, Jonathan. And I need you to understand. I would have left. for you, for us. If you choose to read this, then you must know. There are things about our past, things about this house, things about Margot, that you do not know, that you are not meant to know. But if you can still love me after reading this, then you will understand that I was never meant to be just a memory. You must make a choice now, a choice between love and legacy, between me and the shadows. I will always love you. Eleanor. Maya stood frozen. She felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling. She was holding the key to something Jonathan never knew existed. The truth, the choice Eleanor had made, the choice Jonathan now had to make. Maya couldn't bring herself to tell Jonathan immediately. She knew she couldn't just drop the bombshell on him. This was too much. He needed time to understand what this meant. Instead, she kept the letter with her, tucked into her jacket pocket, as if the weight of Eleanor's final words would give her some guidance. But something about it nagged at her. The choice Eleanor had mentioned, the love, the legacy, the shadows. The next morning, she sat with Jonathan in the garden, sipping coffee. He had that familiar, absent look in his eyes again, like he was there, but not really. Jonathan, Maya began carefully, there's something I need to tell you. He looked up from his coffee, his eyes searching hers. What is it? She hesitated. I found a letter. Eleanor's letter. The one she wrote before she passed. Jonathan's hand went still, the mug in his grasp suddenly feeling too heavy. What did it say? His voice was quiet, almost afraid. It's not just a goodbye, Maya said slowly, her voice trembling as she held out the papers. Jonathan took them and Maya watched as he read, his face transforming slowly as he absorbed each word, each sentence. His expression was unreadable, then tense, then almost pained. When he finished, he didn't speak for a long while. The only sound between them was the wind rustling through the garden. Finally, Jonathan stood and looked at her, his gaze steady. I don't know what to do with this, he said. I don't know if I can forgive her or forgive myself. You don't have to decide anything right away, Maya said, but you do need to make a choice. Jonathan met her gaze, and for the first time, he really saw her. Not just as a caretaker, not just as the woman who helped him heal, but as someone who was standing at the crossroads of this new path with him. I know, he said, his voice raw, and I think I'm ready to start making it. No, the choice has been made. But the shadows are not done yet, and the love that once seemed so clear may no longer be enough to save them. The days that followed the discovery of Eleanor's letter were shrouded in an uneasy stillness. The kind of stillness that makes you question every step you take, wondering if the ground beneath you will give way at any moment. Jonathan had gone silent, not in the way he usually did when his mind wandered to distant memories, but in a way that made Maya feel like she was standing on the edge of something she couldn't quite understand. She was used to him retreating into his thoughts, but this was different. This was like he was disappearing into a shadow, and the more she tried to reach for him, the farther he pulled away. Maya couldn't stand it. That morning, she found him in the study, his back to the window, staring out at the garden where they'd sat just a few days ago. His hands were clasped tightly together, knuckles white. I've been thinking, he said, his voice distant, a lot about Eleanor, about what she said. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She didn't need to ask what he meant. She could feel it, the weight of the decision pressing down on him, on both of them. You're going to let her go, she said softly, stepping closer. You're not holding on to her memory anymore. Jonathan turned, his eyes dark with the intensity of his thoughts. I don't know if I can. Maya sat down across from him, trying to meet his gaze. She wanted you to move forward, for yourself. She said you were more than your legacy, more than what Margot and this house represent. He looked down at his hands, running his fingers along the wooden edge of the desk. I know she wanted that. I know she loved me. But it's hard to let go of something you've held onto for so long. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. You have to choose, Jonathan. You can't live in the past and the future at the same time. Jonathan's eyes met hers, and in that moment, Maya saw the storm swirling inside of him. The conflict, the fear, the overwhelming weight of responsibility that had never left him. The truth of the matter was simple, yet devastating. Jonathan was trapped between two worlds. The world of his past, where Eleanor's memory haunted every corner of this house, where Margot's silent grip had held him in place for so long, and the world of the present, where Maya had stepped into his life, a woman who was carving her own path, who had no intentions of disappearing into the shadows of the past. But Maya knew what he didn't want to admit. The past was never going to let him go. That evening after dinner, Jonathan pulled Maya aside. I have something to show you, he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. Maya followed him to the library, where the shelves were lined with books, journals, and strange artifacts. He stopped in front of an old cabinet that Maya hadn't noticed before. It was intricately carved, the wood worn with age. He took out a key from his pocket, the same one that had unlocked the north wing, and turned it in the lock. The cabinet doors creaked open, revealing a collection of framed photographs, most of them black and white, with a few in color. Eleanor kept these hidden, Jonathan said quietly. She didn't want me to see them. Not until, well, until now. He pulled out a photo. It was a picture of Eleanor, but this time, she wasn't the woman who had smiled gently in their garden. This was a woman with an intensity in her eyes, a woman who had seen something, known something, and perhaps had been waiting for someone to uncover it. Maya stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as she looked at the picture. Who is this? She asked, her voice trembling. Jonathan hesitated. It's Eleanor, but it's before she met me, before the accident. She was different then, stronger. Strong enough to keep secrets? Maya asked softly, her mind racing. There was something about this picture that felt off, something hidden in the shadows of Eleanor's eyes. Jonathan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed the photograph back into the cabinet and pulled out another one, this one older, faded, and cracked with time. But Maya could make out the two figures clearly. It was a man and a woman standing close, their arms around each other. And the man in the picture, looked hauntingly familiar. It was Jonathan. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The woman in the picture, the one with her arm around Jonathan, was the same one from the portrait in the nursery. The one whose eyes had mirrored Jonathan's. Who is she? Maya asked, her voice tight with confusion. Jonathan's face twisted, and for the first time, his walls began to crumble. Her name was Margot. Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet. No, she whispered. That's impossible. Margot, she's... I know, Jonathan interrupted, his voice trembling now. I never knew the full truth. But when I looked at those photos, when I read Eleanor's letter, it all started to make sense. The truth hit Maya like a tidal wave. Margot hadn't just been Eleanor's sister. She had been more than that. She had been someone else's love. Someone Jonathan's heart had once belonged to, before everything had gone wrong. Before the tragedy, the grief, the obsession. Margot hadn't just lost her sister. She had lost the love of her life, and Jonathan had never known. Maya stepped back, her mind reeling. This changes everything. Jonathan nodded, his face pale. I have to make a choice now, Maya. I can't keep running from the truth. I can't keep living in the past, holding on to something that never was mine. He looked at her, his eyes searching hers. I'm ready to choose, but I need to know you're with me. Maya's heart raced. She could feel the weight of his words, the gravity of what he was about to do. She didn't know if she was ready to be with him. She didn't know if she was ready to face the choices, the consequences, the past that was still gripping them both. But there was one thing she knew for sure. She wasn't going anywhere. The truth has been uncovered. But now, the real test begins. A decision must be made, one that will define everything they've fought for and everything they've lost. The house felt different now. There was a heaviness that hung in the air, like the storm was finally about to break. Jonathan and Maya knew that the final confrontation was coming, the moment when the past, present, and future would collide in an explosion of truth, choices, and consequences. Maya stood by the window watching the world outside. The garden, the trees, the vast expanse of land that had once seemed like a beautiful prison. Now, it was a reminder of the battle they were about to face. She could feel Jonathan's presence behind her, the weight of his emotions pressing down on her shoulders. He was there, but not really. His mind was elsewhere, still caught in the web of guilt, love, and the unknown. Maya, he said quietly, his voice strained. She turned to face him, her heart heavy with the truth she had come to understand. There was no more running from it, no more pretending that everything could just go back to how it was. This was it. The final moment. The choice. I've made up my mind, Jonathan said, his gaze unwavering as he stepped toward her. I'm going to face Margot. I'm going to tell her that it's over, that I'm leaving. Maya nodded. She had known this was coming. The moment when Jonathan had to confront Margot, when he had to break free from the chains that had bound him for so long. But she also knew that breaking free wouldn't come without a cost. Are you sure? Maya asked, her voice soft but firm. Are you ready for what this will mean? Jonathan hesitated. Number, I'm not sure. But I have to try, Maya. I can't keep living in fear. I can't keep hiding from my own life. Maya's heart swelled with both pride and sadness. She had known this day would come, and yet part of her was still afraid of the consequences, of what Margot might do, of what it might cost them. But there was no turning back now. I'm with you, Maya said, her voice steady. I've made my choice, too. We'll face it together. Jonathan looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude and something else, something deeper. His fingers brushed against hers, a silent promise. Margot's arrival was as inevitable as the storm clouds gathering in the sky. She entered the room with the same elegance, the same coldness. But there was something different in the way she carried herself now. The air was thick with tension, as if everyone knew that this was the end of something. The end of a chapter. The end of a life that had been built on lies and manipulation. Jonathan stood tall, his shoulders squared, his eyes hard with resolve. Maya, Margot said, her voice sweet but laced with venom. I see you've found your place here. Or at least, you think you have. Maya stood her ground, refusing to flinch. This is my choice, Margot, not yours. Margot's smile was thin, her eyes cold. Your choice? She repeated, her laugh barely a chuckle. You think you can just waltz in here, into this family, into my life, and make a choice? You're nothing but a distraction. You always were. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, but she didn't let it show. She had come too far to back down now. I'm not a distraction, Maya said, her voice steady. I'm here because I belong here, and I'm here to help Jonathan make his own choice. He's no longer bound by the past. Margot's eyes flickered with something dangerous. You think you can save him? You think you can fix him? Jonathan is mine. He always has been. And I'm not going to let you take him from me. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice cold but firm. It's not about ownership, Margot. It never was. You don't own me, and you don't control me anymore. For the first time, Margot's composure cracked. Her gaze hardened, her lips twisting into a sneer. You think this is over? That you can just walk away from everything we've built? She spat. Jonathan's gaze remained steady. Yes, I do. It's over, Margot. We're done. The silence between them was thick with years of pain, betrayal, and unspoken truths. And yet, there was something freeing in that silence. Something that told them both that the past, with all its darkness, had finally been put to rest. Margot didn't say anything for a long time. She just stood there, her eyes burning with fury. Then, with a final venomous glance, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving them alone. Maya and Jonathan stood there, the weight of what had just happened settling in. I did it, Jonathan whispered, almost to himself. I actually did it. Maya stepped toward him, her hand reaching out to touch his. We did it. For the first time in a long while, Jonathan smiled. It wasn't a smile of triumph, but one of relief. The weight that had burdened him for so long seemed to lift, if only slightly. There was still a long way to go, but in that moment, they had taken the first step towards something new. Thank you, Jonathan said softly, his eyes filled with gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without you. Maya smiled back, her heart full. You don't have to thank me. I'm here because I want to be, and because you deserve this. We both do. Jonathan pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her, holding her as if he never wanted to let go. For a moment, everything was perfect. The world outside, the storm that had been brewing, could wait. They had won this battle. Together. As the evening drew to a close, the house felt different. The air was lighter, freer, and though they both knew that there would be challenges ahead, new obstacles to overcome, there was also a sense of hope, a sense that the future was no longer defined by the shadows of the past, but by the choices they made today. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they would face it together, and that was enough.